Users got 500 errors for 45 minutes after a deployment. Nginx was still running the old config because Ansible skipped the restart handler when a later task failed. Let's break down Ansible handlers and notifications, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Ansible handlers are special tasks that run only when notified by a task reporting a changed status. They're defined in a handler's block and triggered via the notify keyword. Handlers run once, at the end of the play, in the order they are defined, not the order they are notified. This prevents multiple restarts if the same handler is notified by multiple tasks. The notify keyword is used on a task to indicate that one or more handlers should be triggered if the task reports a changed status. The value can be a single handler name or a list of handler names. Here, if the template changes the file, the restart Nginx handler is added to the notification queue. If the file is already up to date, the task reports OK, and the handler is not notified. Handlers are defined in a handlers block at the play level or in a roles handlers/main (IML). Each handler is essentially a task with a name and a module action. Order matters. Handlers run in the order they are defined, not the order they are notified. This defines a handler named restart Nginx that restarts the Nginx service. Note the indentation. Handlers are at the same level as tasks. The listen keyword allows a handler to be triggered by multiple tasks via a common topic. Instead of notifying a handler by name, tasks notify a listen topic, and any handler that listens to that topic runs. Here, both handlers listen to the same topic. A task can notify, restart web services, and both handlers will run in definition order. By default, handlers run at the end of the play, but sometimes you need a handler to run immediately before a subsequent task. The meta, flush handlers task forces all pending handlers to run right away. Without flush handlers, the restart would happen after the play ends, and the health check would fail because the old process is still running. Use flush handlers before any task that depends on the change being active. Handlers execute in the order they are defined in the handlers block, not the order they are notified. This is a common source of confusion. Always define handlers in dependency order. Even though both handlers are notified in the same task, first handler runs before second handler because it's defined first. This is the most dangerous handler behavior. If any task in the play fails, all pending handlers are skipped at the end of the play. This is by design to avoid applying changes from an incomplete run. If the migration fails, the restart app handler never runs. The config file is updated, but the app is still running the old version. This leads to inconsistent state. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The play updated the Nginx config, which notified the restart handler. Then the database migration failed. Because of Ansible's default behavior, all pending handlers were skipped. The Nginx restart never executed, leaving the old config active while the database schema had changed, causing 500 errors. The root cause is that Ansible skips all pending handlers when a task fails in the play. This misconfiguration allowed the playbook to proceed without restarting Nginx after a config change, because a later database migration failure prevented the handler from running. The fix was to add force handlers, true at the play level, and use meta, flush handlers before the critical migration task. This ensures the handler runs even if a later task fails, preventing the system from being left in an inconsistent state. If you use changedWhen to override the change status, handlers only run if you explicitly set changedWhen true. In production, teams accidentally set changedWhen false on tasks that should trigger handlers, completely breaking the notification chain. This is exactly the incident from the hook. The failed task causes the handler to be skipped. Always set force handlers, true on plays that manage services. Even if restart Nginx is notified first, restart app runs first because it's defined first. In a microservices deployment, this caused a brief outage because service B restarted before service A. If the variable resolves to an empty string or is undefined, the handler never runs. Always use literal strings for listen topics or ensure the variable is defined. Handlers are inherently idempotent because they only run when the notifying task reports changed. But you can break idempotency if your tasks always report changed. Use changedWhen, creates, and checksums to ensure tasks only report changed when something actually changes. If the checksum matches, the file is not downloaded and the handler is not notified. This prevents unnecessary restarts. The force handler's play level directive ensures that all notified handlers run even if a task fails. This is critical for plays that must apply changes regardless of subsequent failures. With force handlers, true, even if the migration fails, the restart app handler will run. This prevents the app from running with an old config. Handlers can be defined in separate files and included using include tasks or import tasks. Prefer import tasks for handlers to ensure proper ordering and uniqueness checking at parse time. Dynamic include tasks can cause duplicate handler names if the same file is included twice. Use import tasks for handlers when possible. In Ansible 2x and later, handlers are deduplicated by name. If the same handler is notified multiple times, it runs only once per play. However, in Ansible 1x, handlers could run multiple times if notified by different tasks. This article assumes modern Ansible behavior. If you're on an older version, expect different results. The article mentions force handlers at the play level, but you can also use block rescue to ensure handlers run even if a specific block fails. This gives finer control than a global force handlers. Handlers are essential for rolling updates where you need to restart services only on changed hosts. Without handlers, you'd restart all hosts even if no config changed, causing unnecessary downtime. The listen pattern is especially useful when multiple services depend on the same config change. If a handler takes a long time, e.g., restarting a database, it can cause the play to hang. Ansible has a default timeout of 30 seconds per task, but handlers inherit this. For long-running handlers, consider using a sync with poll or increasing the timeout via undefined environment variable. When handlers misbehave, use these commands to debug. Run list handlers before any production deployment to verify handler ordering. Use V to see notification messages like notifid handler restart Nginx. Let's run through some common interview questions. What is the default behavior when a task fails? Handlers are skipped. How to force handlers to run immediately? Use meta, flush handlers. What is the difference between notify and listen? Notify triggers by name, listen by topic. And a few frequently asked questions. Can handlers run if a task has ignore errors? Yes, it doesn't count as failure. Can multiple handlers listen to the same topic? Yes, all run in definition order. Does flush handlers affect handlers notified later? No, only those notified up to that point. Let's recap the key takeaways. Handlers run at end of play by default. Use flush handlers for immediate execution. Force handlers prevent skipped restarts. Definition order equals execution order. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Ansible Jinja 2 templates, then Ansible Vault for secrets management, then Ansible error handling, and Ansible file management modules. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.